Welcome back, everybody, for another Wacky Packages cultural experience. There was a time when the hobby was very cohesive and really didn't change much from year to year in terms of who the serious active collectors were. And we were all born within just a few years of each other. We were all about 7 years old in 1973, and we were sure the hobby was going to die with us. But that all changed in 2004 when Topps started reprinting them, and it has been doing so consistently now for 21 years. That will breathe the life of immortality into the hobby for sure. And there's so much territory now and scholarship and mystique in this hobby that will surely always attract collectors. But nonetheless, the hobby will still lose something very significant when the 1973 generation dies. So I want to try to preserve some of that for posterity by interviewing some of the old timers. And today we have very special guest, Phil Carpenter. So Phil is definitely a natural place to start. I got into this hobby in January of 1998, and I met Phil almost immediately. He had already been active for quite a while, and he was the current go-getter at the time, one of those people that tries to raise the bar from wherever it is. And he did that by writing three books with co-author Paul Ardropoulos: The Wacky Packages Handbook, number one, the Wacky Packages Handbook number two, and then the Wacky Packages Gallery. If I think back to the years 1998 to 2004, it was such a whirlwind, but let's start with 1973. So welcome, Phil.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Why don't you start by telling us about the first time you ever discovered Wacky Packages existed?
Well, I've thought about that a lot, and it comes down to a playground, but I believe it was 1974. So
Oh,
I'm not.
really?
It was the fifth series.
Ah,
Remember that the fourth series was released in October around Halloween of '73, and they had like about a 90-day, period of time.
yeah.
So it's probably like January of '74, February on the playground. A friend named Bobby Steeritt had Knuckles and Crazy Crackers, or the first two that I saw. And then by the time we realized that other kids had been hoarding them and collecting them, the sixth series was out. And there was a guy at the baseball park who was already a wacky pack entrepreneur. Paul Emery, a guy who lived a few blocks away, was at the baseball park with a giant stack of series three, four, five, and six cards, all for 10 cents each. So two
He
for
was selling them. He'd started a business already.
yeah, and if you want to trade him, of course, he'd give you like a penny for each one you traded. And so he was walking around. I remember we got my brother and me. We got a bunch of third series ones like Wheeze It and Arg and Choke King and Hungry Jerk, all the classical series three. So we never saw those because they were gone by the time I discovered them. Was the fifth or sixth series was cranked out.
Right. And there's a very good reason that the shelf life was 90 days. Do you want to explain that to people?
I'm not sure if I know, but it seemed like they needed time to like reconfigure because we know a lot of the early sheets had edits to them. Series four
Right.
did, Nasty Crush was series five. So I think they needed time to pivot, right?
Oh, okay. I'd always heard that they had 90 days to respond to a C and D. And
Uh,
so that's why each series had to be exactly 90 days.
well, that's kind of
Who
similar because
knows?
the idea of pivoting means they're going to delete or add titles, and that's driven by a C and D.
Yeah, you're right. That's a little inconsistent of an explanation with the fact that they were pulling titles.
And they were selling them out too. So when the seventh series came, my mom started buying a box for me and my brother each. And we sent
by
it.
by seventh series.
Yeah, seventh series, and that's when the posters came out for us. And we didn't.
Okay.
I never saw the Wikis version. We saw the '74, the common version, and we bought those. And we would go to the store, and there would be like wrappers floating in the wind everywhere. And hopefully you got there, and sometimes when you got there, they had sold out, and all you had to
Yep.
do was odd rods or something like that.
Or crazy covers.
Crazy, right? And it was a big disappointment because
Yeah.
the
So how
wacky.
far did you go? How far did you collect up to what series did you finally stop?
I stopped at series 14. My brother collected through series 15, and we never saw series 16.
Right, nobody knew.
Well, so they're sort of out there somewhere, but
Yeah, but there was like more than a year between 15 and 16.
yeah, I was already into comic books by then.
Exactly.
And so I had forgotten about Wacky Packs until I came back in college.
That was my next question. What was the first time you even thought about Wacky Packs again after that?
So, my brother was more of a nut than I was. So he ended up like getting all the wacky packs from all the kids in the town that outgrew them. He bought them, traded for them. And so we had an 8-inch stack of Series 5 cards, probably. I mean, like a stack like that big of Series 5.
Wow.
Four, but we never saw Choke Wagon or Bum Checks. We only saw the Mesclarol Wintex version. So I got back to him because I had graduated college and I was going to go to grad school. And I was going through my parents' house in LA, and in the closet was a Wacky Pack wall poster. It's actually, I still have it.
No way.
This is the one my dad bought for my brother and me. We
Oh my
bought it
God. One of the originals.
though, and I have like this was like probably from a series 6 or 7 wrapper. I can't remember.
Right. Right. So you could order these posters from the back of the wrappers.
Yeah, for
And that
two.
went all the way up to, I guess, series 14 at least.
Yeah, they came out with different versions of them though. So they had the '79 version. They had the one with wikis. So I found two posters. I saw in the Comics Buyer's Guide an ad by Les for the wrapper. So I got a wrapper, and when I
So
got
what
the
year was this?
'88,
88.
I
Wow.
just
So you were a real pioneer.
well, when I discovered the wrapper, I went in there and I discovered that's how I met Neil Camera and I met Roxanne, of course.
Okay. So Neil was doing this even back in the 80s.
Yeah, well, thanks to Roxanne because she was very helpful, and she's a major player. She already had a book. We'll talk about the book in a minute or two, but so the Neil Camera story. So we talked to Neil on the phone, and Neil didn't have a Wacky Pack wall poster, but he told us that there's a Series 4 alternate version with Choke and Bum on it.
No way.
Blown
There
away.
isn't.
We were like, no, hold on a second. There's no way. What are you talking about? Because we had Mesclarol and Wintex. That's a distribution. There's an East Coast bias on that, I think.
Could be. So you
Uh,
didn't even have the choke. You never even saw the choke wagon checklists.
no. So we traded basically the poster to Neil. We got Bum and Choke, some other stuff that was, fun too. So I traded the poster, and this is I still have this one here that I've had framed ever since. And then I
Amazing.
discovered the wrapper, so I just started advertising the wrapper. I started buying from Roxanne. And back then, Roxanne she wasn't the exclusive player, but she was the major player. There's Mark Macaluso, who
Right.
had the nerve to sell Wacky Pack unopened die cut packs for $50 a piece.
So tell people, what was it like before the internet in this hobby?
It was all phone calls and network and convention driven. Circles of like people wouldn't necessarily really auction as much. Roxanne still auctioned back then.
Hmm.
We have a phone auction, and you can call in and bid. But there was a lot of people just buying and selling. If you first come first serve. And so that's why people would pay extra money to have the wrapper delivered faster. It turned out
Yeah.
that I was a grad student in Champaign-Urbana, Illinois, and the wrapper was published just a couple of hours away in Illinois. So my wrapper popped up on my mailbox way faster than the dude in Pennsylvania or LA because the way the post office worked. So
Right.
in many instances, I had the first crack.
Nice. Wow. So you were really serious all the way back then.
Well, yeah, I was. I mean, then I've gotten to the whole Ludlow thing and Ratz and Cracked, and then you know,
Right.
like buying. I had probably had 7 cracked animals or 4
Oh
rats,
my God.
and then
So most people start with the 1 to 16, then they find back variations and die cuts, then wrappers, boxes, sheets, and finally art. So did you follow that full trajectory?
no, I didn't. So we had some mysteries from my old hometown. For example, we had a Quacker Oats die cut that was punched out, and we also had like the Wacky Ad Minute Lice, so the really small one.
Right, the little one.
We just had him punched out that we got from our friend Randy, our neighbor. And he said he got him from this guy down the street named Paul, his older brother. So we went to his older brother's house and he had taken the wacky ads, like Minute Mud. His brother was like 5 or 6 years older than us and stuck them on his wall.
Hmm.
And we had a series 2 Minute Mud, right? The tan back. But this thing was different. It was cardboard.
Yeah.
And so then Roxanne explained to me, Roxanne's the one who taught me what a die cut was. Roxanne or Neil or both.
Okay. So the
7?
first thing you discovered after that was die cuts and ads.
I probably didn't even know what Series 16 was yet. Neil Cameron probably told us what Series 16 was. I learned a lot. It was Roxanne Toser and Neil Camera.
Yeah. I mean, it's amazing because there was no website you could look. When did Roxanne's book come out? The first book?
86, 85.
Okay. So for a while, that was pretty much it.
Yeah, and so in her book, maybe 88, yeah, she put a second one
She
out.
had two editions of it.
Yeah, so the thing about our book was that, I got Rats and Cracked in an auction from Roxanne. They were the newly discovered Wacky Packs. And
Oh,
I don't
really?
remember or know, but Roxanne probably had 20, 30 sets of die cuts at that time. Same with Macaluso. And I think that those guys got boxes and popped them open to make sets.
Probably.
That's where else could they? That's where they come from. They're not from
Yeah.
shits. So then,
I mean, nobody was thinking back then about
oh, it's
preserving that
okay.
stuff.
I have a framed cloth set. Roxanne Toser used to sell
Nice.
full cloth sets
Yeah, yeah.
for
She had
30
hundreds of
bucks.
them. Yeah, she busted open a whole lot of those boxes, which is a shame because those packs now are worth like $500.
Well, the boxes are super rare. It's my favorite
And the
box.
boxes. Yeah. I mean, somebody who bought from Roxanne told me a story about how she was packing out a 5-cent ad box and he bought the last pack from her. And so, since the box was now empty, she cut the top of the box off and threw it in the package for the guy. And actually, he sold it to me. It was just the top, like, I mean, even Roxanne back at that time
Yeah,
cut the top of a 5-cent ad box off because she had no idea that that would be collectible.
yeah. People,
So you saw the
yeah.
whole, you
That
lived, by
tells
the
you the
time
state of
I
the
got in the
hobby. I mean,
hobby, that was already collectible. But I guess you lived through the whole evolution of that, where people took more and more obscure stuff more and more seriously. And I guess you were one
yeah.
of
And
the
then there was
pioneers
shit,
of doing that.
but it was hard to find that stuff, But I went to, there was a couple other guys who used to advertise the rapper. There was, I think, Dean Anderson from Chicago. I talked to him a lot, but I was like into Series 2 Ludlows and Series 1 Ludlows. I had my Ludlow thing.
Right. You
And
went through that.
oh yeah, I went through that pretty hard. Hey, I went to the show and I got an ultra bright red Ludlow. And then one day, dude, he called me on the phone. He goes, "Hey, there's a guy who has the original artwork to Ultra Blight, and it's only like $300." And I passed on it because I didn't know what it was. I had
I was
no
going to
idea.
ask you, what was your first experience with original art? So that was it, huh?
And I said no because it didn't have a camel on the freaking back.
Yeah.
That's where my brain was.
Yeah, I know. I know. We all went through an evolution like that.
And so obviously something else happened with Ultra Blight, but then right around that time, I was putting ads out in the wrapper for buy, sell, trade, and I got a phone call from Eric Roberts when he lived in New York, and that kind of, when he entered the hobby in
Well, this was much later.
7 years later,
Yeah,
yeah.
so let's get hold on. We'll get to that. But
And I used to go after the first series a lot too because they're very sentimental. We didn't have a lot of first series where I grew up. A friend of ours
same with me.
had a spray knit cloth that was we couldn't figure out what its origin was until Roxanne filled in that picture for us. And he said he bought it at a store. We think it was like a test product in that store, and it
Mhm.
didn't work out, so they never got first series ones. But when my brother ended up like hoarding all the Wacky Packs in where we lived, there was no first series cards. Not even like the old 6 print Matty Boys. It was the only
Interesting.
thing we had was a checklist from somewhere and a bunch of Wonder Bread ones. Because
It must have been really regional until like second series when it went crazy and went nationwide.
They produced more at a higher demand. So the first series and then the die cuts, which are, obviously they're related to the first series, became like the thing, like because it was the mystery. Like, what did Paul's brother, why did he have a Minute Maid cardboard thing on his wall and a little tiny Minute Lice? I mean, what does
Yeah,
that mean? I think,
yeah.
yeah, so we figured all that out. And that was like Roxanne and Neil put that all together.
I'm sorry I missed those days. That must have been a lot of fun. So tell me about the first piece of original art you actually bought and why you bought it.
I think I bought Bleck in the wrapper for $300. I think it's what
And
happened.
when was that?
96 or 97, 96,
96 or 7? Okay.
something like that.
So talk about how your interest in art kind of grew from there, pre-Eric. Tell the pre-Eric story. And
So there were guys like, "Hey, do you want to? I know you like Wacky Packs. I know a guy who's got a piece that he got into the '89 Guernsey auction, which by that time we had already had the catalog and figured out what the auction was. And then I talked to other people. Roxanne bought a few pieces. Dwayne Dimmick was actually at the auction. He bought a couple, etc. So there's a lot of stories going on. People, they were available. People were offering them to me. I would pick up some
well, there
here.
were the couple of guys that bought a whole bunch of them and then they were flipping them for like $400 or $500, right?
Robert Foster was the main person. He was the one raising the bar at the auction, and I know he frustrated a lot of other people. How many he had, then Yeah, no one really knows the answer. There's still a whole bunch of these things that are unaccounted for.
There are, yeah. There
So
must be
this,
at least 100 of them.
and then there's the, then of the unaccounted ones, there's the question of which ones were from the Guernsey auction,
Right.
which ones were
There was
not.
about 290, I believe, from the Guernsey auction. And back then in the 90s and the early 2000s, when we were collecting this stuff, you almost never saw a piece that wasn't Guernsey. It was like 99% of what people had in their collections were from the Guernsey auction. Nobody knew where the rest of the stuff was. Of course, Tops had a lot of it, but they wouldn't
Well,
admit it.
so what I did was I went to New York by myself for like 5 days. I cold called people. I had called people like Josh Nathanson, who ran Leland's auction on the phone. And I met him. I met some other people. And I met Arlen Ettinger. And, he had a list of
Uh-huh, right.
he had a list of wacky packs that were not in the Guernsey auction. And so I kind of started thinking about provenance and, basically to make a long story short, he legally owned those. He had a deal with Tops, and Tops became aware of this. And as far as they were concerned, he was the legal owner of those wacky packs.
Just because Tops decided not to pursue it. But so this was the guy that ran the Guernsey auction to some extent and just helped himself to a whole bunch of pieces.
Yeah.
I believe he had Jolly Mean Giant. Didn't he have Fanatical Fiction? Oh no, that was somebody else.
Mark Newgarden had Fanatical Sickly Fiction.
Right, Newgarden had that.
I went to Mark's house and saw all his stuff, and then I made a trade with Mark. I gave him Wintex for like Ghoul Humor or something like that. Just I could make it. I made a trade with him to basically, Arlen had a lot of artwork, and it's not clear if, he had a deal with Tops. That's what Tops said. That's a form of compensation for his conducting the auction or whatever it was. He had a deal with them, and
But curiously, Tops may have felt that he was the rightful owner, but I don't think he felt that way because he was very, very secretive about it for a very long time.
he
It's
was on the list, and he was secretive about it. He said he represented a guy in Florida. I think he was just trying to figure out provenance and that kind of thing. But he had a lot more than Wacky Packs, by the way. I mean, Wacky Packs is just a small drop in the bucket from what he had.
he basically had free reign of Topps Vault before anybody else did. So let's jump ahead and go ahead and finish the Eric story that you started at the beginning.
Oh, no. So I got into the wrapper, which is really the hook for me, through the buyer's guide. I met Neil Camera and, of course, Roxanne Toser and Mark Macaluso and a few other guys. But,
Well,
those.
let's actually, before we talk about Eric, we have to talk about Gidwitz.
Oh, Gidwitz. Yeah, well, the Gidwitz, one of the big purchasers of Wacky Pack artwork in Guernsey was Robert Lifson. He has an auction house. Robert Edwards Auction House is his thing. And Lifson, is a baseball guy, and Mike Gidwitz is a baseball guy, as you well know.
Mainly, yeah.
But he liked, he liked Wacky Packs. He thought they were funny. He thought they were well done. So over the years, Mike had accumulated like over 100 Wacky Packs, original arts.
Original art, yeah.
And he was looking for more, but he wasn't willing to pay $1,000 a piece.
No.
If he did, he would, kick and scream about it.
He was paying like $500-600 and they were laughing at him.
Yeah, well, I mean, also he was trading with them too. I mean, we've both been to Gibbs's place in Chicago, but when he
Yeah.
lived there,
He had them all hanging up in his kitchen. I'll never forget.
yeah,
Wacky Packages. It was just incredible.
but he also had like uncut sheets of like 1934 Gaudi cards.
Yeah, yeah. He showed me those. He had the Honus Wagner, the highest grade Honus Wagner card,
I know he sold too fast though.
which he sold. Apparently, that turns out that was cut from a sheet. Did you know that?
Wayne Gretzky and Bruce McNall card is what that is. Yeah, cut from a sheet. It
Yeah.
is. But yeah, he had that, and so he was doing deals with Lifson, and he accumulated a lot of them. And I went to Gibbs's house in the old days. We made a trade. I can't remember what I traded him though.
He was real hard to buy from.
Yeah.
And then Eric came into the scene.
Yeah, Eric came in. I met Eric on the phone. He called me, and he was living in New York at the time, and he wanted to buy a Cracked Animals from me. And the one that I already had sold in the wrapper. And I said, well, I can get you another one, though. I don't remember what I did, but I had another one on it coming to me somehow from another deal I did. And I ended up basically selling him a Cracked Animals.
What year was that?
95-ish.
Wow, I had no idea he was into it that early. The rest of us became aware of him on eBay around 2001.
Yeah, so 90. So then
2000.
we talked a lot, and what I learned is that he's really into comic books. I'm a comic book collector first. I mean, I always have been.
Yeah.
You can, I mean, and so I've been collecting comics. Once I learned what comic books were, I forgot about Wacky Packs.
Right. I was exactly the same way. My teenage years was all comic books.
Yeah, so and I never outgrew comic books. I still do comic books. And he's like, yeah, I have comic books too. And
Yeah.
the kind of comic books Eric had that were slightly different. So, and then I was like, wow, really? And yeah, he was pretty into it. And he was very knowledgeable about the hobby and the pedigrees, and then he was also doing artwork back then too. He was
Comic
slow.
book art, but I don't think he didn't
Well,
start buying wacky art until around 2000.
I say that I'm slow on Wacky Pack artwork, Greg, because I said no to Ultra Bright Original for $300 because it didn't have a freaking camel on the back of it.
Yeah, well, we all made those mistakes,
So I feel as though that there was a progression for him as well.
of
Uh,
course. But at some point, he became really, really serious about the art. Around 2001, 2002, he became a
oh yeah,
force to be
yeah.
reckoned with.
Well, he went like he was putting ads out like in everything.
Right, full page ads on nationwide, but that worked.
It did. It did work.
What did you? I'll never forget the phone call I got from you one day. I pick up the phone and it's like original art to run Tony. Click.
Yeah, that was the Rum Tony was the big card back then. But then I got the original art. It was like faded. It was like wow. I thought the colors were popping off the
Yeah,
top.
it's funny. Sometimes the original art really disappoints you, and sometimes it makes a title so much better than you ever thought it could be.
Yeah, I know. So I traded. So Eric got Run Tony, but you know how he got Run Tony? Because he found a dude that had six that were from the Guernsey auction. He bought them in the Guernsey auction. He was a baseball guy.
Right. Which other ones did he have?
Staples, Stingline, whatever was paired with Run Tony in the auction. I think it was Stingline Staples, I
Okay.
believe. And then
Oh, right. You had to buy two at once. I forgot about that.
you had Kool-Aid,
Nice.
and
Kool-Aid was another one that was a little disappointing, wasn't it?
it has a flaw in it, like some like bent it. There's like a line. It's nice, but there is I would say some damage to it, minor damage, but it's enough that your eye sees a big streak on it.
Hmm.
Eric traded up, so the guy would only trade for baseball stuff. He didn't want
Oh,
money.
really?
Understanding the deal. I mean, if you talk to Eric, it may be recollection may be different, but he knows better than I do. So so he had to come up with a baseball card. And the dude wanted, he didn't want like some normal card. He wanted like a freaking certain one that was expensive. So you had to go
Right.
hunt the card down to trade him.
Amazing. So
And
that's how you got Run Tony.
yeah, I had Slatex gloves, and I traded that to Eric 1-to-1 for that.
Oh, you ended up with Run Tony. Yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah, I traded Slatex to Eric for it.
Amazing.
And then, Gideon was just on the phone and be like, yeah, if I find Ron Tony, you're going to give me 3 Wacky Packs in return,
Yeah, you got the better end of that trade, I think. But
He's always doing like some kind of deal like that. But anyway, Eric found a bunch of people, and there's a couple people who won't sell.
well, there's still that guy in Delaware that had like 100 pieces or something, and Eric bought a whole bunch of them from him.
John Mann's, the guy John Mann
John
found.
Mann's guy that we could never figure out who it was. So I finally figured out who it was because the guy contacted me a few years ago. And Eric and John somehow convinced him to not shop around, to not talk to anybody else, and to just exclusively go through them forever. And the guy died now, and
Yeah,
his son and his mother have control of the collection. And I told him, shop around. Don't just have one, but that was it. They cut me off. I wrote him back a few times, and I only got like a couple messages from the guy. He said he wanted, actually, the reason he contacted me to begin with was nothing to do with art. He wanted the 3 rare posters, Weekies, Cheapios, and
total.
Total. And so we just started chatting, and he just happened to mention that he was that guy. And I was like, oh my God, I finally connect the dots. And so I sent him those posters. I sent them to him for free. All I wanted actually from the guy was just to come see him. I was like, can I just come look at him? But very, very private people. But I think, anyway, they still have a bunch of pieces. Unless Eric finally bought the rest of them from him,
Yeah,
they still had a whole bunch of pieces.
yeah, I think he's chewed into the collection.
Yeah, he probably got at least half that collection.
Well, I would think so for
But
sure. But there's like certain ones that are Gatorade, Land of Quakes. Those are in that collection, I believe. Eric's ads worked. Is the moral of the story. So he had all these people bouncing off him, and one guy had a couple Wacky Packs. What was Mess Clairol paired with in the auction? He had that lot. So Eric makes a deal with the guy, and he says, okay, and he gets one piece, and now he's like, okay, Mess Clairol now. And the guy said, okay. So Eric made a deal with him on Mess Clairol. The guy couldn't find it.
Oh my God. Did he ever find
He's
it?
like completely freaked out and goes, I can't find it. I've been through my entire house. And for the amount of money Eric offered him, you would go through you would probably destroy your house and rebuild it back.
It was paired with milk foam.
Yeah, that's right. Eric has, yeah, right. Milk. That's a good lot.
Yeah.
So he got milk foam from the guy, and then the mesclero, though, is still floating out there. It's in his house. He had a very large financial incentive to look for it.
He'll find it. He'll find it one day when he's moving, when he's not looking for it.
Well, this is like 20 years ago.
I'm still
So
looking for some stuff for 20 years.
anyway, those are some stories.
Yeah, no, those are good stories. I also want to just see if you want to talk about a few other people. For example, Dwayne.
Dwayne. Dwayne went to the Guernsey auction.
That's true. We did already mention
Yeah.
Dwayne.
We got a lot of sheets. I used to buy sheets from Dwayne, and I used to go down there. I still talk to Dwayne. I mean, he has Wacky Pack stuff. He's still on eBay buying and selling stuff.
I talked to a guy a couple days ago that has a card. I don't know what to call it, a repro or a forgery. It's so identical to an original Ratz that it comes with a note from Dwayne
Oh yeah.
saying, "Don't get confused, this is not real." But I don't see how putting a note with it really helps because eventually that note and that card will get separated from each other.
Well, there's a guy that was on eBay, I think, or there's a talk about Dwayne made a fake Mars Attacks box. And I don't know if there's maybe
Right.
one or two examples known to exist. There's no unopened box. So he made a fake one, and some guy got it from another guy, and the guy doesn't think it's fake. He's been told it's fake.
Dwayne made it.
Yeah, and Dwayne says it's fake. My understanding, this is hearsay, is that the guy thinks that box is real, and that Dwayne is wrong about it being a fake,
Even though he made it.
even though he made
Unbelievable.
it and told him that he made it. I mean, I have a Mars Attacks box from Dwayne right here, a fake one.
Oh my God. But I mean, like, so Roxanne walks up to Dwayne's table at some point and sees a first series box in perfect condition. And she's like, "What do you want for this?" And he's like, 25. And she's like, "Well, will you take 20?" And he's like, "It's not real." And she's like, "Oh, well, you know what some people think about that." And I mean, the
Well,
funny thing is that box was worth several $100s at the time. And she haggled with him over $5. But then he told her it was fake, but she couldn't even tell. I have a problem with that personally.
well, the thing about that is how many examples do we have of people trying to sell fake stuff as real? And I'm not aware of that being to a point where you would want to say like this.
It's not an epidemic.
It's not an epidemic. I agree that there should be something inside of them that prints like this is a reissue, like it's printed. On,
Exactly. If you print on it, I'm okay with that. But
yeah.
but just like putting a note with it.
No, because that's not part of it. If you have a stamp like it says this is a reissue, blah 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 on it,
Well,
a disclaimer of what it is, then I don't care.
right, that's fine. But when I used to ask Dwayne about this, he was like, "Well, you're stupid for caring about a piece of paper and thinking it has any value. And so I'm just teaching you a lesson," or something like this. Some really weird
I'm
rationalization.
not really a big advocate of that idea, but I feel as though disclosure is everything, and there's other people doing them too now besides Dwayne,
Oh yeah, no, a lot of people have done that. A lot of people have made repro rats.
and boxes.
And boxes. Oh yeah. So I mean, it's true. I buy a lot of collections, and I don't run into much fake stuff. I run into fake packs, like people who've resealed packs. There's been an epidemic of that.
Eric bought a fake die cut box.
Oh, really? The whole box?
Yeah, unopened box. You know how he
Yeah.
found out that it was fake?
How?
He opened all the
Well, he
packs.
opened it. Yeah. So what was in there?
A bunch of freaking like obviously assembled cards, die cuts that
There were die cuts.
I think they were die cuts, but like VG conditional. It was clearly, old brown. It was obviously not the same, but the gum didn't match the top of it because like who would open a freaking die cut box? Well, there's
Right.
only
He thought he would get away with that. Well, Eric, how many has he opened?
no one knows that.
There were some good pieces on Heritage recently. I think Toad was on, and it only went for like 5 grand.
They had a die cut box last week on Heritage,
You're kidding.
sold for 90,000.
Full?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't see that. I got to put a news item up for that. So 52,000 is no longer the record.
No, the die cut box went for like 89 with the premium.
Is Eric going to open it?
I don't know if he has it.
He must have. He wouldn't let a die cut box go.
He's already got a few of them, I think.
That's crazy. I can't believe that more of those keep turning up. I mean, I was sure when, what was that dude? Randy had a couple of them. I was sure that was it, that there would never be another one. All right, maybe we should wrap this up.
Okay,
Thanks again for sharing your stories.
sure.
This is really good stuff. We might have to have a sequel at some point. I like to think about people watching these videos 100 years from now and what they'll think about it.
I mean, you might not get a lot of hits in 100 years.
Yeah, who knows? If it survives that long, somebody will watch it and go, wow, these guys were really crazy. Who knows? Thanks for watching, everybody. Please don't forget to thumbs up if you meant to. It's easy to forget. And we'll be back with more soon. Until then, do your thing.